Outside just got to be no fun. Something else that doesn't like to start in the cold. All right, babe, here you go. Snow in Arizona.
I'm so excited. It's so pretty.
They actually look really cool. Come on. Oh. Well, we are less than a week away from heading down to an area in southwest Arizona that is known as the largest gathering of RVers really in the world. Somewhere around 1 million people will come through this area in the next month or two. We're going to go and have a booth at the Quartzsite, Arizona Sports and RV Outdoor Show. It's got a big long name and a big huge tent. We've been there for a few years with a booth. We'll be out on the Midway with that giant RV behind us, the Journey truck that you can't miss and all that good stuff. But recognizing that it's only a week away got us realizing how much stuff we've got to tackle. And one of those projects I'm going to do is this shed right here. In this video, I'm going to take this little backyard shed and turn it into an absolute power station here for our off-grid property on a budget with not all of the perfect tools and all of the perfect resources, kind of like a regular person would do. Not some of those like so super specialized YouTubers that have all the bells and whistles. This is more like a regular guy's guide to taking any backyard shed, building, shipping container, and adding solar, inverters, chargers, batteries, all of the stuff on a budget in a realistic way so that you can have power even if you're not connected to the grid. And the cool thing about this idea is if you're off grid, awesome. This is a great application for you. But if you're in an area where your home is on grid and you're plugged in, but you've got a building or an outbuilding, a container that maybe you want power to and you don't want to deal with pulling permits and hire an electrician, this is also a very viable solution. So any solar project, you always want to grab a compass and figure out which way is south. And because we're here in the northern hemisphere in Arizona, our sun comes up in the south, especially through the winter months when the days are shorter, which is what I'm more concerned with. When you're working with solar, you always want to try and maximize as much sun as you can through the winter. In Arizona particularly, we have no issue with sun through the longer days in the summer months. It's the winter days. So I'm going to jump up on the roof of the shed, bust out a compass on the phone, looking out this way. Right out over the right-hand edge of that mountain and the ridge there is direct due south. So southeast, where my sun comes up, is going to be all the way over here over this ridge line. And in this particular location, as the sun comes up in the winter months, it kind of follows this ridge and it takes clear until about up in here, which is like 10:30, 11 o'clock, until I get actual direct sun on this particular part of the property where the shed's located, because that mountain is so close to us. Then from like 11 to noon, we're in full sun. All the way up in here, we have full sun, and then we'll have full sun as the afternoon goes on. And then we squeak out really good sun until 4:30, 5 o'clock in the winter time, and it kind of drops behind that little knoll over there. And we end up with some beautiful sunsets, but we don't have good sun right to the last drop. So what I want to do is modify the mounts of my solar panels so that they're tipped on just a bit of an angle, so that as the afternoon goes on, I squeeze just a few more drops of better sunlight out of the western direction as the sun sets through the day. If I leave them flat, it's going to degrade my solar intake. So if I can just kick the panels up a little bit, I don't want a really steep angle because we get a lot of wind here. And so I don't want a huge, wind shear issue. We're going to do a little modifying down here. Let me show you what I got in mind. All right, so looking at our solar panel, this is the back side of the solar panel. We've got the mounts that mount to the solar panel. These are things you buy in addition to the actual panels themselves, unless you buy a kit. But you got to remember to make sure you get the feet to mount your solar panel to, whether it's an outbuilding or an RV roof. And depending on your circumstances, if you're doing some sort of a ground mount, that might be a different application. But so what I want to do is I want that side to stay flush, but I want this side to be lifted up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and let me pan around here and show you. The way the solar panel is built, this is hollow underneath here where my finger is. This is like a C channel on the side of it. And so this line right here, I'm going to cut a groove into this 2x6 with a saw. I'm going to cut a groove all the way down it so that that 2x6 will slot right over the edge of that C channel. Then I can pre-drill some holes and screw that 2x6, that treated 2x6, into this side of the solar panel without affecting any of the actual panel on the face of it. And then I will take the mount and relocate it up to the taller extension, do the same thing on this one, and I will effectively have made it so that my solar panel can go and mount on an angle. Let's do it. All right, there's where most of our daytime sun starts, and then it carries out over there, and we get a lot of late afternoon sun. So I want to tip it so I'm slightly angled in an easy way without getting carried away and building some crazy mounts. This just keeps it super simple. Those tabs are aluminum, they're super easy to bend, so it won't take anything to just give them a little tweak. The tabs on this side go right there, so you just drill and screw. In our case right here, because we're just on a shed roof, it's not a big deal. We're gonna go right through the shingles. So the screws they give you with those Renogy panel mounts do have a little plastic washer on it as far as trying to help seal, but in addition to that, we'll cover everything with some outdoor roof mastic silicone type product that'll help seal the top of those screws. So I'm actually going to put 3 200-watt panels up here on this little 12-foot shed roof. But in order to do that, I want to space everything out evenly and allow myself just enough room to add a 4th panel on this same side of the roof if I want to. Just gives me a little bit of flexibility if I want to expand this system down the road. So I'm just laying everything out, getting things divided up evenly, taking those screws that I showed you a minute ago with that washer on them, and they have a self-tapping feature, so no pre-drilling necessary. And bada boom, bada bing, first 2 are in. All right, got all the solar panels up on the roof, and now I'm going to work on wiring those together in series and then putting a connection to go through the roof and pass those wires down into the interior. But as I was getting down here, I just couldn't help but start drooling a little bit over this amazing watt cycle battery that is going to be the heart and soul of this off-grid solar shed. Let me show you what I have got cooking over here. This thing is a little pack of power. So from projects past, we've done several iterations and upgrades on our RV with different batteries and solar and setup. And at one point we had 4 of those. There's another one down here on the ground. So we had 400 amp hours of lifetime lithium 12-volt batteries, which is pretty common. They're on Amazon. And of course, they're very popular with the DIY crowd because they're usually pretty affordable. But in the same ballpark of affordability is watt cycle. And this little battery here, let me tell you what, we've got 3 100 amp hour batteries sitting there, so you can kind of get an idea. That's 300 amp hours of batteries on the left. This is 314 amp hours of battery in one box here on the right. It's got built-in Bluetooth for smart connection. We'll get into more of that later when we get further into the build, but I just wanted to make sure you had that reference for the size of the battery, because when you see me putting in just one battery in this shed for the kind of the heartbeat of this solar off-grid shed system, you might be familiar with the old 12-volt deep cycle batteries, or even familiar with these Lithium batteries off of Amazon, and you might be thinking, one battery, that's it? That's all you're putting in there is one battery? Well, if I put all three of those batteries in, you might be thinking, oh, there's three. That seems like a lot. Well, that one battery has more amp hour capacity than those three altogether. So it's going to be a sweet deal, and easy to expand down the road if I ever decided that I wanted more power in the shed. But I think this is going to work awesome for what we're going to do. So on to the next part. All right, I've located the spot in the shed where I want to bring my wires in. I want to put my charge controller, breakers, mount the battery, all that good stuff. And I really wanted to insulate behind it, but I am in the boonies. I'm an hour plus one way to try and go run and get insulation. So that's not going to happen. But I didn't really want to put the panel up and mount everything and then have to deal with trying to take it all back apart. So, genius redneck solution. The solar panels came packed with all of this thick inch and a half, I don't know, inch and a half, inch and a quarter, kind of rigid foam. It's not perfect, but it's pretty dang good for free. Let me show you what it looks like. So there is basically my 2-foot by 4-foot cavity. And it's got 2 layers of this rigid foam in it, all sealed up tight. So now I can put some OSB over the top of that, mount everything pretty permanent. And then later, if I decide to insulate this shed, which I think I'm going to, at least then I won't have to take apart all the electrical. I can just move my shelves or insulate in behind them and make it work. It was about right here in the day where I started to actually pull all the parts and pieces out and make sure I had everything I needed to put this whole project together. If you're anything like me, sometimes you get ahead of yourself, and one of the things I learned is I might have gotten a little bit ahead of myself. As I start unboxing everything, pulling everything out, I am having a heck of a time finding the right fuse. I've got the solar disconnect, which I'm opening here, which is to go between the solar panels and the charge controller. And I've got a fuse assembly. What I don't have is the right amperage of fuse. So this was about the part of the day where I don't know if it was a good case of the hangries or just good old tired or cold, but things started to go downhill. Maybe you can relate. So I didn't film a whole lot more, decided it was probably going to be a better idea to clean up, wrap it all up, and have a fresh start in the morning. Well, we knew that the weather was going to cool off a little bit, and we were expecting high wind and a little bit of rain today. What we weren't expecting was it cooling off this much. And it has dropped down into 36, 35. I just saw it hit 34 a few minutes ago. And it's about that time that I look outside and I see snow, slush, sleet coming down, the temperature hitting 34, that I remember Leaky Lou. And I remember that I bought antifreeze, but I haven't put it in yet. Wah, wah, wah. So there's no time like the present. So just in case today stays cold and it drops below freezing tonight, I don't want to risk anything in here, because I did have a overheating problem once, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago on this. Got that sorted, but in the process, I put a lot of water in, and there is little to no antifreeze left in Leaky Lou. So we're gonna get this old boy fired up. We'll see if he wants to fire up. This is about the coldest it's ever been for him to start. So I'm hoping it'll start and I can get some water circulating, some antifreeze in it, and make sure he's safe through this little cold snap. That looks really inviting, doesn't it? Don't you just want to sit right down there in that wet, soggy, gross seat? I don't. Oh man. Come on, bud. Come on. Well, I was afraid of that. Old Leaky Lou does not like cold weather. But, dun dun dun, Oxalum jump pack to the rescue for the probably 50th time since I've owned this old critter. I do have a bigger, better battery in it, but it's just cold. So I don't even have any starting fluid or anything. So I'm gonna fire up the jump pack and we'll see if that'll give it enough juice to turn. Come on, baby. Come on. Yeah. All right, I learned a little trick. I had the jump pack on it and I ran it through one cycle on the jump pack and it was not starting. And then I think what happens is you have to actually disconnect the cables from the battery and then reconnect them. And then it sort of like tells the jump pack it's time to like go through a start cycle again. Because the last couple times the jump pack wasn't putting any power to the battery. So took everything off, turned it off, put it all back on, turned it back on, and I could hear it clicking like it was putting power back in. And victory. Oh, it's cold. Ooh, it is a mess in here. I've got about 5 projects going at once, and I had to stuff everything in the shed last night at the last minute when I ran out of light because I knew it was going to be windy and rainy. I didn't think it was going to be snowy. Somewhere in here, there's antifreeze. Antifreeze. Do you guys ever get like 27 projects going at once and you end up with a giant mess everywhere? That's what I feel like right now. Got RV projects going on. I got solar shed build going on. I've got setting up and staging for some other projects that are coming down the road. And too many projects, not enough time, way too small of a shop, at least for right now. Normally, you can stay outside and it's not a big deal, but outside just got to be no fun. My wife is happy. She wanted to see snow on our property. All right, babe, here you go. Snow in Arizona.
I'm so excited. It's so pretty. It just makes everything look so beautiful.
It is definitely a third, fourth cup of coffee kind of day. Dang. It snowed like half, 3/4 of an inch, an inch maybe. Oh, the sound of packing snow under my feet. This is pretty cool. This is something you don't see too often. Joshua trees covered in snow. They actually look really cool. Got some antifreeze in it. I'm feeling a lot better about that, especially because it's gonna, if it does freeze, it'll just be barely, you know, maybe a couple degrees below freezing, and it won't be that cold all night. So the fact that I got some in it is gonna stop anything from breaking. So I feel a little bit better about that. And it has warmed up, charged up, cycled some fluid through. So I think it's time to shut this bad boy down and go enjoy some snow. Eventually the snow did let up and the skies cleared, and I do actually get back to the solar project. But this was just too beautiful not to pop up the drone and explore the neighborhood. All right, it warmed up just a little bit, like 37, 38 degrees. It was getting down to 31, 32 when it was snowing, but it warmed up enough to make everything a big soggy mess. But I really wanted to get this project done on the shed, and we've got all kinds of other stuff we've got to get done, and we've got friends on the way that are going to be here sometime tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, and we want to have a little fun before we go to the big event. So working in the slush and the mud and the muck is what it's all about. So got out there on the ladder and started cleaning off the solar panels, making up my cables to put those 3 panels in series, wiring them up so that they go through my roof penetration, and then bringing them down into the solar panel disconnect. And then from the solar panel disconnect, I'm making up some pigtail wires to go from the MC4 to just a straight wire ferrule on the other end. And then those are going to go into the solar charge controller. And I apologize, I had great intentions of filming this more DIY style and doing every little, showing you how the different connectors go together and, you know, kind of taking you through a step by step. But life did not work out for a step by step video with the crazy weather, wind, snow, ice, all the stuff. So I had to just buckle down and not try to film every little inch of it and get the project done. So let me give you a look at where I'm at so far. I am just about ready to turn on power from the solar panels, which we're not going to be making a whole lot of solar power. There'll be enough to see if the whole thing turns on, but put the disconnect on and see what happens. All right. Charge controller is powering on. It's going through its startup cycle. This is a new charge controller to me. I'm familiar with Victron, but Wattcycle reached out, wanted to know if we wanted to work with them. And so I'm going to be giving you more intel in future videos on how this system is performing, and I'll give you more intel on the specs and details. But one of the things I like to do before I try and talk something up is actually use the products. And so I figured I might as well at least show you what we're doing with them, how we're getting them put into place, and then we'll circle back in a future video and get into the weeds on some more of the details on them. At any rate, I'll have to go through and set up that charge controller, make sure it's got the right charge profile on it. If you're not familiar with charge controllers, they're designed to, normally, most of them nowadays are designed to charge different types of batteries, whether it's a deep cycle lead acid battery or one of the new lithium type batteries. And the different batteries require a different charge profile, which is basically like a program in the charge controller that tells the charge controller how many amps the battery should get, when it should get, how much power should come at different, different stages of the charge. And you want to make sure you've got the right program set in your charge controller for the type of battery or batteries that you're using in your system, so you're charging them correctly. So I'll get that sorted and set up, make sure it's all dialed in for the right lithium battery profile. Next, I'm going to hook up the inverter, and we're going to see if we can make some good old-fashioned electricity. What tiny bit of sun we have. Solar's working, battery's charging, inverter is powered up. Got a little test set up with just one of my battery chargers down here, 6-pack charger with a couple batteries in it, and that is on and charging, no problem. This inverter also has USB, so it's got 3 outlets. I'll have a link to the products in the description. All right, well, you'll notice I put everything up really high, and it's not the most convenient to read, and the way the inverter is set up, you can't see the face of it very well, but the inverter comes with an external view display, so I'm just going to mount that probably somewhere up in here next to it, just so it's easy to read. And I don't really need, in this particular application, I don't need a remote. I don't need this to be able to turn it on and off from a long ways away. But I wanted everything up a little bit because I keep my generators both down here on the floor. I want to put some other shelves in here, and then underneath the inverter and charge controller, I'm going to put in another shelf so that this can be like the primary area where I'm going to do all my battery charging for my cordless stuff. And then I'm also going to put in a little 12-volt fuse panel that will allow me to put some 12-volt lights and a couple other things in here, so that some of the stuff that I want to run in here, I can just run directly on 12-volt. And that's going to include some exterior lights and some interior lights that'll be wired up and put in here. And that way it doesn't have to have any power loss coming down through the inverter to switch it over to AC. We're making some sunshine. Ooh. All right, now you get an idea of what I was explaining earlier. Here's where our sun comes up, midday. It's late afternoon right now, which means the sun clears the top of that mountain over there, and it'll go down over there. So my solar panels up on the roof, tilted just slightly to pick up more of the afternoon to late afternoon sun, just a little bit better, and they are working. We have so much cleaning up and organizing and strategizing to get the RV actually ready for the show. Because at the RV show in Quartzsite, that RV is actually our booth. Our truck and RV are on the midway at the big tent in Quartzsite, and we roll out the green carpet, not the red carpet, and set up our booth and all of our gear. We've got so much stuff to do to get ready. It is. I think we have 4 days left, 5 days left. I don't even know what the countdown is at this point. What I know is it's probably going to feel like not enough time. And I sure hope the temperature turns back on because it's freezing. All right. I got to get inside. I got to get to work. We'll see you next week with part 2 of whatever it looks like to get this thing back on the road, back down the road, 4 hours south, something like that, to make our way to Quartzsite and setting up and all of the other stuff. And hopefully this all comes together. The way you're going to know is to subscribe, turn on notifications, and come back next week. We'll see you then. What is it? He hasn't seen a lot of ice in his life. He's getting kind of spoiled and pampered in the warm weather since we've had him. I guess he's seen a little snow and ice. I take that back.